Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell, the Scottsdale Police Department. With me is my community liaison, Chris Sal.
Hi, everybody. How you doing today?
So how have you been since the holidays? Because I think that was the last program.
I know. I'm sorry. We had a little glitch last month,
Yeah.
and it's just been because it's been so busy.
It's been busy.
The
It's the
city has
season.
been busy, and our department has been so busy, and we've had so many people here. So sorry about that, guys. But I'm sure you're just so thrilled to have us back this month.
Well, the great thing is that it has been a great season. We had several bowl games. Along with our open,
Oh, yes, all the
with-
events.
right? All the events, the Barrett Jackson, the Arabian Horse Show. Now spring training is over.
Yes, it's crazy
and
busy.
regular baseball season starts, and so I think we've got a couple more major events coming up this month. But other than that, it'll start getting quiet, and we'll start having visitors in from out of town I guess people will be leaving actually.
Yeah, and then
going
snowbirds.
back.
Yeah, going back. Yeah.
The cycle just starts up all over again. It's hard to believe it's already April. Quite frankly.
And the thing is that the police department is so busy with all those events. I mean, we really, focus on keeping our city safe. So
yeah,
we're
and
back.
it has been a great, very safe season.
Absolutely.
So we're finishing up Assistance Academy, right?
Yeah, we're on halfway through.
Okay.
And so we're on the fourth night this week. Actually, it's Wednesday night. So this is the fourth or fifth night.
Okay.
And I'm losing track myself.
Absolutely.
It gets so fast.
But for folks that might be interested, might want to make some plans ahead of time.
For fall.
We start up again in the fall in September.
Correct.
And they just need to go online and consider writing an application.
Right, or call me and I'll be more than happy to send them an application.
Sounds good. And then, of course, it's starting to become the summer. So even though kids are still in school,
Yes.
We just need to be careful.
Absolutely. Kids are out. It's so nice out, and people are out. Kids are out riding bikes. And just be vigilant and pay attention to what you're doing. And motorcycles too. I saw some few things today with motorists not really yielding to motorcycles. Just be careful when there's a motorcycle around you. They don't have as much protection as you.
Absolutely. So one of the things that is happening in the city is in terms of photo enforcement. I'll just talk real briefly about that.
Yeah, that's very important.
Because there was in fact a decision from the Attorney General's office that we have to get our vendor in compliance. And while we're waiting for that to happen, we shut the cameras down. But I want to caution the public,
Right.
Because those cameras were really placed in places where they were needed,
Absolutely.
just to ensure safety, driver safety, and awareness. And then we don't hide them; they're there. But sometimes we had the vans in school zones, and so kids are still out there. We're still very much concerned about speed enforcement and red light enforcement, and we're going to have officers out in many of those locations now that the cameras have been shut off temporarily.
Right, until we figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to comply.
Right, and once we're back in compliance, those cameras may be turned on right away, and I don't want the public thinking, well, we weren't notified they're back on. So please be careful as we drive through the city streets for everybody's safety.
Absolutely. So today,
Yes, ma'am.
let's talk about a tradition that you continued in the 90s, early 90s, so long ago. Chief Heidingsfield decided to do a Chief's Award of Excellence program.
Kind of like our Academy Awards.
Exactly, it is our Academy Awards. And basically, it's a program where our employees or anyone within the department can nominate anyone for Supervisor of the Year, Officer of the Year, Rookie of the Year. I think there's like 15 categories.
15 different categories.
And if I believe correctly, you actually enhanced the program, and didn't you add a couple?
We did a couple things to add commitment to the community service. We added spirit of service. We added things that go for these teams, because we had large groups of people that were being recognized as team efforts. So we added a few others, but there are 15 categories total, yes.
Right. So basically, what happens is the employees nominate somebody. Like I would nominate you, a police chief of the year. You got nominated for that. Actually,
I'm not too sure I really ever got that award.
I don't think that's a category, but if it was, you'd get it.
Wow. Okay.
And
one person in the category, I win.
You would win. But we have three of our guests here today that are nominees or winners of this 2015. But most importantly, the winners that we have here today and the nominees were people that also not only go above and beyond the duty for work, but they also give back to the community. So we are wanting to showcase them today.
Absolutely. And I do want to just add one little thing about process, because what happens in the process, they're called the Chiefs Awards of Excellence, but we don't actually make the selections.
Right.
We actually have a committee of employees from across the organization that actually review all of there's over 100
Tons of nominations.
And they actually go through all of that as a committee, and they make recommendations to the chief's office as to who they would most highly recommend.
And then they put them in categories,
They
right?
put them in categories, and then we, for the most part, have always accepted the recommendations, unless there's something we know that they don't know because of the position that we're in. But for the most part, we accept all of their recommendations. So the employees are nominated by other fellow employees,
Right.
and they're selected in terms of finalists from other employees as well. So it's clearly an internal kind of review of the kind of work that's being done by these men
Right,
and
and
women in the
recognition for
office.
people that deserve it, or that
Absolutely.
really go above and beyond, because let's face it, everybody deserves. I mean, we have a great team and a great workforce, but it's really nice to be nominated and feel like that your fellow employee feels that you're deserving of such an award.
So we have a variety, so why don't you go ahead and start off by introducing our guests, and we'll go through the
Thanks.
variety of awards we're represented today and nominations today, because
Okay,
it's
but
also
Alan's
important
going
to
to have to help me with his last name, because I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong. But to my immediate left is Rabbi Kravitz. Rabbi Kravitz has been with our department. He's a veteran. He's been there 18 or 19 years. I don't even know long. I forget. I count. But I'll let him tell you that. And then Alan Kosecki. He's one of our scientists in the lab, and a pretty new employee. He's been here a few
Alan,
years.
how long have you been with us?
About 10.5 years.
Oh, he's 10 years.
Yeah.
So he's a really new employee,
so
10
you have
and
to
a half
understand,
years.
people in the lab, we don't
We
really
don't
see
see
them.
them.
They're hard working in that lab.
They're secretly behind doors that we cannot get
They're
in, okay?
Very, very busy. We'll talk about just how busy you are, Alan.
And Officer Tara Ford, she's currently in detectives, but she's here with us today, and also a winner from the 2015 Chiefs Award of Excellence.
Why don't we let them tell us a little bit about themselves and their
Awesome.
backgrounds, and then we'll talk about the awards they won.
So Rabbi, why don't you begin?
Oh, I guess we start way back when. I'm a Connecticut Yankee, and I've lived all over the country, had congregations in New York, Georgia, North Dakota. Came here 29 years ago, and almost from the time I arrived, I became a police chaplain. Started in Phoenix, retired my badge after 20 years, then the chief in Phoenix lateral to DPS, so I picked up a DPS badge. Then I moved to Scottsdale, and I've been with Scottsdale for a decade and a half or whatever it is. And I've enjoyed the work that I've done in the community. I've enjoyed the work that I've done with the police departments.
The Rabbi was nominated for Volunteer of the Year.
Correct.
As a nominee for Volunteer of the Year, it talks a lot more about the services you provide our folks. So as our chaplain, one of our chaplains, you're always there for us. You're available to us 24/7, which is a huge volunteer commitment, of course. But you participate in our ceremonies. You're there in times of need in terms of officers. You're available to officers that I don't even know maybe approaching you for
That's
some
right.
assistance and support.
And you won't know.
And I won't know. Exactly right. And I shouldn't know.
That's the whole idea of having the opportunity of an officer or somebody in the command staff even to come to the chaplain and know that when they speak with the chaplain, they're speaking in confidence. And unless they're going to be harming themselves or somebody else, we don't report it, we don't write it down, we don't take notes, we don't in any way have a tape recording or anything else. It's clergy penitent is the way it's described in the law. And chaplains do a lot of work behind the scenes, which allows us the opportunity to get to know the officers and their families, and sometimes victims of crime if we happen to be in a certain circumstance, and help out where we can. But we are available.
Well, thank you for all that. I know you have other outside activities as well as
Well, I do
this,
have a
so-
job that
Yeah.
pays the bills.
Yes. So I know that just the fact you're
Just
so
a
readily
little bit.
available to us has just been tremendous through the years, and that's quite a long-term commitment to law
Well,
enforcement.
I've enjoyed it, and it takes a while to get into the role of chaplain and to
And the culture of policing.
Absolutely. It's not like walking into somebody's conference room and saying, "Okay, hi, I'm the chaplain, and now let's sit down and talk." It just doesn't work that way. And so once one learns the culture of policing and how police officers think and operate and interdepartmentally and within their own families even, have whatever energy or concerns has to be addressed, we're there.
That's great.
You know, I mentioned this probably when we did a program on volunteerism, that when I volunteered right after I got home from the Civil War, volunteers licked stamps and licked envelopes and, you know, put flyers in envelopes and mailed them out. We didn't really do, we did clerical kind of menial labor jobs just to kind of help out around the offices.
Right.
But today's volunteers, they're working.
Yeah,
I mean,
we have a very great pool of volunteers.
Probably, what, 35 at any given time, off
Yes.
and on numbers of volunteers that we have. And of course, the fire department has a lot more than even that. So we really rely on our volunteers to do things today that if they weren't doing, we'd either have to hire somebody or it wouldn't get done, and they need to get done. And so we've got volunteers doing amazing things in our department.
A lot that have changed since I started,
Absolutely.
33 years ago. They are really doing some investigation work and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Oh my goodness.
But it just depends on the person
And the skills.
and the skills
And the interest.
and the interest
And the time.
and yeah, absolutely. And there's a process. So you have to go to Citizens Academy.
Yeah,
number
go Citizens
one.
Academy. That's right.
Then
That's
we
the
go
first
right
thing.
back to Citizens Academy.
But you guys are very much part of our family. And I just wanted to say to be nominated for this recognition is a huge nomination because we've got some wonderfully talented and committed volunteers
Absolutely.
working with our organization. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I'm honored.
Alan, you were the recipient for the Employee of the Year. I mean, Civilian Employee of the Year.
Yes,
that's right. Okay,
yeah.
so you're the unsung hero in the group because again,
Nobody sees
we don't get to
you.
see you much because
You're
you're
behind
in the
a glass
lab doing
door.
what you need to do. and what people may or may not realize is the amount of work that Alan himself has taken on, quite frankly, for us because we've had some turnover at the lab. We've had people leave for other jobs, and we actually have some vacancies there, and our lab folks literally have committed themselves to being available to us when we need them. We've had you guys come in on weekends, and you don't get compensated, by the way, because you guys are salaried employees, but you come in on weekends and you'll work all weekend long on a case that we had where we've gotten some evidence that we need to process as quickly as
Absolutely,
possible
just to-
and get a very dangerous person off the street in quick order, and you guys have been
Absolutely.
absolutely amazing. And so representing
Advocates.
that group in and of itself is fabulous, but you also represent all of our civilian employees in this award. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, please.
Sure. My background's in chemistry, so I originally started work as a professional in environmental chemistry, and then I got kind of bored with not being in a lab anymore. So I saw a posting at the city of Chandler. They were going to start up a lab for blood alcohol testing, so they hired me and another chemist to come in and set up a laboratory. So we came in, bought all the equipment, set it up, and started processing evidence there. Then as part of that, I met several of the people from the Scottsdale lab, and when they had an opening, I decided it'd be interesting to come over here and learn more stuff because it's a bigger lab, more areas to work in. So it's really been a privilege to come here and learn to work in different areas, not just blood alcohol testing or drug identification. So I've kind of moved all over the lab. My current position, I also do serology, but at times I worked in latent prints. So that's one of the great things about the Scottsdale lab is it's smaller, but you have a lot of responsibility because there's fewer people. So you really have to take ownership of the process and the areas in which you do work.
I don't know if we've ever actually done a program where we actually talked in depth about the lab itself.
No, I don't, and I think that would be a great show.
So that's
Good.
another time.
That's good.
Don't ask Alan these questions.
That's a good idea, Chief.
I thought you were the producer, but okay. Anyway, but seriously, you mentioned it's small. We actually provide services not just to the city of Scottsdale, but we have contract services with the Salt River Indian community and also Fort McDowell Indian
Fort
community.
McDowell and Paradise Valley as well.
And Paradise
So
Valley
we're
as well.
Processing Scottsdale evidence as well as outside agencies. So then it's also interesting because then you get to go to court in these other jurisdictions, and especially in tribal court, you get to see how things are a little different in the law and jurisdiction is run a little differently there.
Yeah. It probably doesn't speak necessarily to how you process evidence and how you prepare for court, but it does speak about the process of the judicial system itself.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
it's
And
interesting.
if you're being crossed in your disciplines, you're an advocate for the victims, you're an advocate for the officers when they need help. So, I mean, he's definitely out there, doing his best to make sure that the bad guys go away, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, one of the recent things I've been working on is I volunteered to get trained in serology, which is body fluid identification. And so we're processing a lot of sexual assault kits that have sat untested for a while. So we're in this process of trying to process all those and see if maybe we can identify some suspects out of these older cases as well.
That's great.
There was a little bit of a change in that, because for a while we weren't processing cases where we didn't have suspects. But now the changes, we're starting to go back and say, you know, we can use this information, hopefully to close cases that we were unaware of if there's suspects in other places. And so that's why we're going back to look at those older cases, correct?
That's correct. If we find bodily fluids in there, then I would prepare the samples and send them on for DNA analysis. And then if they're eligible, they can go in CODIS, which is the national system to search for matches against people that have committed crimes and are already in CODIS.
That's awesome.
And you know, this work takes time.
Absolutely.
It's
not
detail
quick.
work.
It's not like TV
Oh my
or
goodness.
CSI where they just, we've got a suspect,
Right.
and then they arrest him, they're in jail, and everybody's happy to give him coffee.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
And even more importantly than all that is the fact that the community expects.
Absolutely.
Their expectations is, why can't you give us the answers? And so one of the things we talk about, the things that are going on in law enforcement today, about people wondering like why they can't get the answers, so they invent their own answer through Twitter feeds or guesswork and talk. The bottom line is toxicology reports take sometimes a month longer to get those reports back, and we're trying to deal with the facts of a situation and investigate that while people are putting out information that isn't necessarily accurate and can downright be a lie sometimes.
Yeah, one of the important things about the Scottsdale lab is it's an accredited lab, so we have international accreditation. And part of becoming an accredited lab is you have to have certain quality assurance processes in place. So even if I do the analysis in a couple of days, one of the processes we go through is to have someone technically review all of your work. So another scientist has to look at that work, so you add that time in the process. And then there's another level of review, an administrative review. So you add all these steps just to make sure you're not making mistakes and that all your results are of the highest quality you can manage.
Yeah.
And even though it takes a little longer, we want to make sure it's the correct and the right information and is done correctly the first time.
Right. I credit the new technologies and the work that you can do in the lab today as one of the variables as to why crime really has been reduced nationally and more so in Maricopa than other places. And why crime rates are so low today is because the technology has finally caught up, the science has finally caught up to the ability to investigate crimes, and now we can identify people. And we've even closed cases as far back as the 1970s and 80s based on DNA evidence that we've been able to develop. And so we're going back and closing up older cases, which is the whole purpose for looking at these other parts of evidence where we have no suspect, but we can go back and at least review and put them into a database system.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Even as DNA technology is developed, you need so much less DNA than you did maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It's a lot easier to have that evidence to positively identify a suspect.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Hi, Tara. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. You're assigned in investigative services now. Where are you working now?
Yes, I'm in SVU,
Okay, you got to tell people what that means.
Special Victims Unit, so
Okay.
all sex crimes.
Okay, I guess they watch TV, they would have figured that one
Yeah.
out, right? Because SVU's on
SVU.
television now, that's true. But there's sometimes we talk code, we have to explain, which I never said CODIS, which is the database, because it's just called database. But tell us a little bit about your career, please.
I'm from the East Coast as well. I'm from New York. I came here about 5 years ago, hired on with Scottsdale. And prior to working here as an officer, I was an advocate, a victim advocate, and community educator for a domestic violence agency. So I really wanted to do something that was a little bit more active, a little bit more out from behind the desk and working with victims a little bit more directly in a different way. So that brought me here to Scottsdale.
It's a great background for what you're doing.
Yeah, it helps a lot. It really does. It's a different way of working with victims, but it still helps a lot in understanding what they've gone through, what they're going to continue to go through, and how to help them effectively during the investigation. So obviously our FAC has a ton of resources, and so that to me was awesome to have all of that.
You can't use the alphabet soup without explaining FAC.
The Family Advocacy Center, which is located up on Via Linda, and there's just so many resources available in one spot. So if you have a question or a concern, it's right at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Walk downstairs or around the corner. And
much smarter,
right there.
better way to do business. When I was doing child abuse
Absolutely.
investigations as a young investigator, unfortunately not mean to do that, you have a tendency to re-victimize the victim by putting them through several interviews by several different people in several different locations. And the Advocacy Center allows us to do it in one location and do that forensic interview one time and not put the victim through all that trauma. So it's a wonderful facility.
Yeah.
And we work very close in partnership with crisis counselors and nurses and doctors. And so it's a great way to,
Prosecutor's office, detectives.
it is the best way to treat people who are going through this kind of trauma and
Absolutely.
help them through the systems. So, which can be confusing and overwhelming. So that's wonderful work. But just so people don't think you can go right into that kind of line of work, you were a patrol officer first. You went to police recruit school.
Yes.
You were a patrol officer before you
Absolutely.
became a detective.
And
Absolutely.
a bike officer.
Absolutely.
bicycle
And I had to learn all that before becoming a part of the police department because I didn't have a police background, so I didn't know that, and so I learned that. And so I started out as a patrol officer in our District 2 area. Then I went to the bike unit, which allowed me to do a lot of the things that we're going to talk about.
Yep.
And then from there I tested for SVU, and so now I'm there.
Yeah. And let's talk about that, because your award was for Officer of the Year for
It was Spirit of Service.
Spirit
the
of
service,
Service.
which is one of the new ones that we created.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is there's another part of you that is not necessarily as public, and that's the part where you support folks in the community.
Yes.
You've been doing some great stuff with Special Olympics. Why don't you tell us a bit about some of the things you're doing?
So when I was still in the bike unit, Assistant Chief Pop actually approached us and said, hey, we are doing some stuff with the Special Olympics. We have been doing some stuff with them, but I really want to get more officers involved in this. So I thought that would be a lot of fun, and eventually myself, along with the other members of the bike unit, were able to take part in Unified Field Day activities where we went and played flag football, and then that all culminated, the games weekly culminated in one big tournament at the end of the season in which all of the teams in the Valley played each other. It was really cool, very competitive, really good at what they do, and everyone just has a lot of fun. So the unified aspect of it is officers and citizens with the participants who are sponsored by the Special Olympics to participate in these activities. So in gaining more volunteers and more funds and doing the fundraising, it allows the Special Olympics to sponsor those participants free of charge. They already have a lot up against them, and so in order to be able to do this, it costs money, and so to alleviate the financial burden on them, this makes it a little easier to go through that.
Absolutely.
So one of the things we did was the Unified Field Day, and then something else we did was Over the Edge. And as you know, I'll explain a little bit of that for people that don't know what that is. Over the Edge is an event where people from all over the state and all over the Valley rappel from the Cityscape building over in Phoenix.
How tall is that
Yeah.
building?
I think I want to say, you know,
32 stories?
what was it?
32?
I think 32
I think
is the
so.
number.
It's anywhere between 25 and 35, and I can't remember the exact, but it's
Doesn't
really
make any difference once you're repelling down.
no. And I had done some rappelling before, and this was just a whole different story. It's
Oh,
really
yeah.
high, and it really shows you what a challenge it brings. It really brings it to light, because when you're on the edge and you're about to go over, it's like, oh, okay, I have to get ready. And Chief Pop was already bounding down the other side of the building.
But he was a pro. He did it last
Yeah,
year, okay?
he had done it before.
He did it before.
But I was on the edge and I saw him going down, and I said, you know what? I don't have a choice now, because he's halfway down and I'm on the edge and I can't back out now. So my other half and I had gotten the opportunity to do this, and as soon as you're halfway down, it's really awesome. You just stop and you pause and you look out and you see the whole valley. It was really cool.
Thank you for doing that. I'm very proud of our commitment to the Special Olympics and
Yeah.
Special Olympics torch run,
Yes.
law enforcement torch run. So just to brag real quick about some of that, this year the International Conference for Law Enforcement Officer Torch Run is in Phoenix, and it is in fact an international conference. I went last year in the Bahamas, and there were people from all over the world at the conference. So this year it's in Phoenix. It's going to be in September, and we are continuing to raise awareness and funding to support Special Olympics. Law
Yeah.
enforcement
And there will
officer
be
torch
more
run.
events coming up too. So if anybody wants to volunteer, there will be more opportunities for that and opportunities to get involved and to do fundraising and things like
Great.
that.
We'll put that information out.
Yeah.
The nice thing about the unified sports is in some of the schools are actually now having unified cheerleading, unified sports, so the Special Olympians can actually be part of the mainstream school system and feel very much included and be able to compete, and it's just wonderful. And you and Scott Pop, are one of our assistant deputy chiefs, has. No, they're assistant chiefs. They change the name on me all the time. They did this mess with my head, but point is that he and your leadership has just been phenomenal. I'm very, very proud of that, and that's why you earned and deserve that award, Spirit of Service. So thank you for that, and congratulations.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. And I have a quick. There was a little girl at the Unified Field Day. It was the first Unified Field Day this year, and there was a little girl who was who's very shy, and she wasn't necessarily as apt to participate in social activities. And so I started to have a little fun with her. We were dancing a little bit, and I was able to get her out on the field to participate in this flag football game. And her dad was just so happy, and he came up to me after and he said, she's never done that before. She's never gone out into the field without me, and I really appreciate that. And so that to me was just the perfect example of being able to allow the parents that, I want to say, normal participation in a child's life in their activities and extracurriculars, just to be able to stand back and watch rather than having to be with her the whole time.
Exactly.
So that was really
pretty cool.
It was
well,
really,
thank you
really
for
cool
that,
experience.
and very deserving of the award.
Thank you.
All of you, thank you so much for representing the award winners this year. We really appreciate all that you've done for us. But it's great to showcase what people are doing outside of the workplace, and as well as the incredible work you're doing for us. Folks are really working well above and beyond their hours of assignment. I mean, literally, Alan, I know you're there all the time, and thank you for that, because literally you're adding to keeping our streets safe. Rabbi, the support you give internally, but also externally to the community with your services and volunteerism, quite frankly, for 2 decades and longer, if you want to include the time you did for Phoenix before you came to us, that's a lifetime commitment, and I want to tell you how much we appreciate that as well. So thank you guys for being our guests.
Yes, we enjoyed having
Hopefully,
Thank you.
Hopefully you all enjoy a little insight into some of the things that are going on inside the organization this month. We look forward to seeing you next month. Chris, got any?
No, just proud of everybody that works for the department, and we're just happy to be here and to serve our community.
Yeah, it's an amazing organization. Thank you guys so much.
See you
Guys,
guys
have a good one.
next month.
Next month, be safe and take care, and we'll see you then. Thank you.